Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Rev with here on a Wednesday afternoon. This will officially be the first Big Rev One after school special. A few weeks ago, we had a grocery store that opened here in town, and it was the week that I had been getting something out of the freezer to prepare for supper that night, and I had said, Lord, you know, there's no beefsteak in here. And wouldn't you know that by the end of the week, our freezer was filled with beefsteak. And I don't get tired of how God does those things in my life. But I began to, as we were cutting them and putting them, wrapping them and putting them in the freezer, the Holy Spirit began to deal with me on some things. And he said, I want you to go get one of those ribeye beef loins, and I want you to bless with somebody with them. I said, okay. So I said, who do you want to bless? He says, I want you to bless Teen Challenge. Teen Challenge, for you guys that don't know, is a ministry that was started several years ago by David Wilkerson. And it deals with young men who are having different problems in their lives: addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction mainly, and then also some also behavioral disorders and things like that. I mean, there's just a gamut of these men that this place works with. And so he told me that I needed to go buy one of those ribeye loins and cut it up and take it up there. And I said, well, I'm going to call up there before I go get one of these ribeye loins, but okay. And so I called the man that was in charge, and I asked him, I said, hey, would it be possible for me to bless you guys with some steaks? And he's like, yeah, that's very possible. And from what I've learned, I don't think steak is a normal everyday donation to these guys. But it's a house full of guys, man. I said, okay, thank you. I'll get them together and I'll call you back. And so I went and got the loin and I brought it home, and I'm thinking, I don't even know how many I'm going to need. And so I call him back. I said, hey, how many of these do you need for one meal? He said, well, we serve between 25, 30 per meal. I said, okay. I said, well, I'll cut these about an inch and a half and freeze them, and then when they're frozen, I'll bring them up. I said, is it all right? And he goes, inch and a half is good. And so I went and I got them, I cut them, froze them, and Jesse and I were going to run them up the road to Neosho, and the Lord, before we left town, he goes, I want you to go back. And so we ended up taking these guys, these beautiful inch and a half ribeyes, and like 30 pounds of potatoes, and 15 dozen eggs, 15 pounds of bacon, and you know, it's just one of those things. You know, I think one of the greatest things that God has done is one, allowed us the ability to pray for other people. You guys know, I think that is just, when people ask you to pray, that's one of the highest honors they can give you, because they're seeing something of divinity in your life that is in contact with God. And on the other side of that, one of the other things is just the ability God gives us to bless somebody. And you know, Kim and I got started on that so long ago, and now it's just what we do. And so we took those up, and we had such a wonderful time blessing them, and that's just awesome. And so as I was leaving, I was talking to a few of the staff, and I said, no, listen, my wife and I have prayed about this, and the Lord's dealing with us, that we want to be a blessing more often to you guys. And I said, so every time we come up to visit Wyatt, who's at Teen Challenge, he'll be there until the end of July, and then he gets sent over to southeast Missouri for 10 months, where he will be in training to go into ministry at Teen Challenge. And I said, we want to bring something, and the Lord has instructed us every time we come to bring something to be a blessing to you guys. I said, I would like to buy you what you need. So what do you guys usually need that you don't have? And I said, that way, if you need it, I can bless you there instead of just buying more of what you might or might not have. And of course, the steaks were a possibility. but as we were leaving, one of the ladies, the moms of the house, she said that cake mixes. I said, cake mixes, okay. She said, yeah. She said, you know, these boys, these young men, they come here and they're in addiction. They've been in trouble. They've been separated their family because of legalities. They've been separated from family because of their addictions or their troubles. They've been separated from their families because the families have been worn down by what's going on in their life, and they've had to separate to protect themselves. She said, so when it's these boys' birthday, I like to bake them a cake. And I just begin to think about that and how, you know, these young men are so twisted and torn up. But when their birthday rolls around, this cake is a hope of normality, a hope of a better tomorrow, and the reminder that they are special and that they were like we were, birthed from the Spirit of God. And so Jesse and I left, and I said, okay, cake mixes. Well, as we hit the interstate, God just began to give me instructions on what to do. And so when we got home, I began to look online for every business in America. I even had some there in England and Europe that provides and makes cake mixes. And of course, we sent one to Betty Crocker and Duncan Hine, the Pillsbury Doughboy, in lots of little mills here and there through North America and especially Northeast America. And sent them emails saying, hey, I'm looking for cakes. Now, the beauty of this was that if I could find somebody that would give the cakes, I can receive them as Tim Kolb Ministries, give them a write-off, and then turn around and just, you know, I can give them a tax break, which is what a lot of the big corporations are after. But slowly but surely, I began to get responses back, and they weren't good. Pillsbury, Duncan Hines, Betty Crocker, the big three, they were out pretty quick. And then some of the smaller ones, you know, they told me that they had a process, but most of the time because they were smaller companies, they stayed within a 100, 200 mile radius of where they were made. And just after a while, everyone that I had sent out was denied, except for one. And this one was just so cool. I mean, just because I'm not the typical person that Betty Crocker would probably find in their kitchen. Maybe the Pillsbury Doughboy, but even him, and you know, but I got a hit. I got a response, and it's so amazing because when we do kingdom work, who would be better suited to work with yours truly in kingdom business than the ace of cakes? Yeah, I got an email back from Duff, his production company, and he was like, yeah, we want to help. And because I was doing it through my ministry and without really any permission from anybody to do it, but that somebody said, yeah, we could use cakes, I left them out and just told them, you know, where they were going and what for these young men. And so I get an email that says, yeah, let us do some thinking about this and see. And so it was a few days later, and I got another email, and they said, we're shipping them. They should be there next week sometime. And I said, man, that's great. I said, you have no idea what this little cake is going to do in somebody's life. And I was just so amazed again. And what's amazing thing is, you know, I've known some other celebrities that were really into the zebra patterns. And you know, when I worked with Nijit, you know, we always had zebras on. But anyway, they sent me an email and said, yeah, we're gonna be able. You should expect it late next week, which was this week. And then I got another email about an hour later, and they said, we're shipping this to your business address, which is my home address. And make sure you have someone to help you. And I'm thinking to myself, why will I need somebody to help me carry a cake mix in? And at the bottom it said, take some assistance because the package weighs 250 pounds. And I'm like, 200, Kim and I were talking, and I was like, 250 pounds? What, they get Duff and shove him in a box with one cake mix and one thing of frosting? Well, then this afternoon, this great big semi pulls into front of a house here on Rogers Circle Drive in Springdale, Arkansas. And this is what, 250 pounds of cake mixes, cake frosting, and cookies from Duff. And so anyway, I mentioned on Sunday that God's moving. God's moving. And I guarantee that there's something in your life today, some direction that God has put on your heart. You've got those directions, and you've put them in a box, and you've put them in the closet of your heart. Prophetic words over your life in a box in the closet of your heart. Get them out. Get them out. Get them out. Begin to step. You know, I was looking over the last couple days about what God's done in Kim and I's life. And it's an amazing thing. The other day I posted that in April of 2014, I wrote down Big Rev 1 in the Grace Underground. Or Big Rev 1, with John 10:35. I and my Father are one. That was all I had. 4 years later, he put it into action. It was on April the 13th of 2009 that I come to Bentonville, Arkansas, and I rented the ballroom of the Holiday Inn. And it was there that God told me on the way home that I would live and move in Arkansas. Move and live in Arkansas. But it wasn't until 2012. The Bible talks in Habakkuk 2:2 about us writing the vision down. That he that runs, and put it on tables, that he that runs may see it. You got to be running after a dream for it to come in fruition. And as I've said so many times, the only prophecy, the only vision for our life that doesn't take place is the one that we do not pursue. And a lot of times we have these things that have washed out in our life, and we're in these situations in our life, and we want to give it the reason that it didn't happen. We'll tag it to a devil, we'll tag it to a circumstance, we'll tag it to this. But the truth of the matter is that there's no prophetic word, and there is no calling or vision that God has birthed on the inside of you. The only thing that can happen with that thing is that you do not pursue it. And so we'll blame the devil, we'll blame a circumstance, we'll do all this. But the truth of the matter is, the only reason is because you don't have the faith to chase after it. It's time to chase, folks. It's time to chase and bake cakes. Amen. I love you. Now get out there. Do what God's called you to do. See you next time.